Hey, my name's Irving Tryon, and I am with Tryon Computers, or Tryon Computers DBA, and I was going to tell you a little bit about myself and how I started my company and why I started it. To begin with, I was born and raised on a farm over in Mesa, Arizona. It was a small family farm, and I grew up there. And when I was a kid, my dad, going through college, went and bought a VIC-20. You probably don't know what that is. If you ever heard of a Commodore 64, that put the VIC-20s off the market. If you haven't heard of a Commodore 64, it is pre-computers, back when memory consisted of KBs, and to record stuff, you recorded on a cassette tape is how you recorded stuff. And he had one to use at school, and we would play games on it, if you want to call it games. I mean, it was a text-based, you recorded to CD-ROM and this type of stuff. And as you recorded it and stuff, you had to, type it in, code it up, and then you could play the games and stuff. And when I was growing up, it's like, hey Dad, can we have more games? And he always said, if you want games, you need to go to the library and check out the code book and program your new games. And so we'd go down to the Mesa Public Library, and we would check out books like this. I would have games and stuff, and I'd have lines and lines and lines of code, and we'd start typing in the code. We'd type in the code and type in the code, and then once we typed it all in, if everything was correct, we could play the game. And if it wasn't correct, then you had to start troubleshooting it and try to figure out what was wrong with it and all that type of stuff. And so that's why I started off my computer experience. And then as I got a little bit older, my dad traded a baby cab and $100 to our neighbor that lived a couple houses down for a IBM, a 250. And the stipulation on that was he had to teach me how to put it together, because back then you had bought the parts and you assembled the computers yourself. And so he agreed to that, and so I went over there. That is where I was taught how to build my first computer, is back then. And I built many computers from then on around my house. We built networks. We run cables from upstairs to downstairs computer so we could network, and then that 250 became a 350. DOS became Windows 3.1 and up to Windows 95. And as I grew with the computers, I got to be fairly decent at it. I used to have network parties with my cousin, and we'd go haul our computers either to my house or over to his house, and we'd spend a couple hours setting them up, trying to get them to talk to each other so we could play computer games back and forth. And so from a kid, I learned computers. I learned that troubleshooting, getting things to work, all that type of stuff. Also, as a kid, I have a learning disability, so if you ever see me write or spell, I'm not very good at that. I have about a third grade English level, and I've dealt with that going through school and all of my stuff there. And what I wanted to be when I was a kid was I wanted to be a scientist. When I was in school, I loved the science books. I loved reading. I loved learning about all the science. I grew up on a farm, and so going out gardening, all that type of science. And that's why, if you asked me as a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up, it would have been a scientist. And so that's what I wanted to accomplish. But then as I grew up, I also became good with computers, and I kind of had a knack for them. It's a different way of thinking, computers, and I felt, I got pretty good at it. And the science was not so good with the writing and taking notes and all that type of stuff, because I wasn't good at that, and I couldn't take my own notes, let alone write. And I really struggled, because in school, high school, junior high, I always felt that I wasn't good enough to do stuff because my disability. I went to special ed classes. I was made fun of and teased a lot, and everyone told me that wasn't good enough. You can't do it. You can't accomplish anything because of your disability. And I graduated high school with my disability, in special ed classes. And I went to college. And I went to college and I got my bachelor's degree. And even going through college, I got my bachelor's degree in computer information systems. Even like my sisters and my family would be like, oh, well, what do you do? I do computers. Oh, that's nice, They didn't quite understand exactly what I did or the level of computers that I did. They would go to set me up on dates, and they'd be like, well, this is my brother. He's really not that smart. He does computers, but yeah, you could go on a date with him, right? And stuff. And so that was me. And I graduated, got my bachelor's degree, and I started at a company. It's a bigger company, and I came in as an entry level. And I started as a contractor there as a level 1 computer support, and I started to learn. I never worked on a server back then. It was all desktop, so I did have the basic understanding of networking and how to pick computers. I was really good at troubleshooting, and so I started there as a level 1. And about 3 months into it, they said, hey, we're going to get rid of the level 1s, and we're going to get rid of you. You're going to have to go find another job elsewhere. And as we came closer, it was, well, you guys are not good enough to become level 2s, and so we're going to outsource you. There's really not a job here for you. I continued to build and grow, and then around 6 months, they decided that they were going to hire me, and so I had to fill out an application, because now I was a contractor going to permanent. Fill an application, and I turned it in to HR and stuff, and HR came back to my boss and said, we don't want to hire this guy. His application looks like it was filled out by a 3rd grader. He spelled stuff wrong. We can't read his handwriting. We don't want to hire this guy. And so my boss says, hey, we're not hiring him for his writing skills. We're going to hire him for his computer skills. He's really good at what he does. And that's kind of this wall I ran into at work and at life, I guess, if you want to call it. Everyone told me that I couldn't do it, As I'll go to learn new stuff, they'd be like, well, it's new, you haven't had experience with it, so maybe we'll find someone else. And as I would do that, I would learn, go out, check out books, take online classes, or whatever, and I'll learn the stuff that was too hard for me, or the stuff I didn't know. And I became quite good at what I did. I became quite efficient at finding answers and troubleshooting, and I could see the big picture, which is harder to see for a lot of people. I could see how the networking interacted with the servers, which interacted with the end users, and how everything kind of fit together, and it made troubleshooting easier for me. And just that way my mind worked. I could put them together and I could do it, and I figured out that if I was willing to work and volunteer for everything, eventually they needed me for everything because I knew it. I had dealt with it in the past, I knew it, and I could fix the problems. And the company I worked for, they knew who I was because I was on the majority of the Sub 2 calls, the Sub 1 calls. If something was broken, odds are Irving is going to be on the call. He's going to be fixing it. And they got to the point that, oh, great, we're glad you're on the call because we know things are going to make progress now that you're on the call. It became known as a action setter, If Irving's on the call, things are going to go smoothly. If Irving's on the call, things are going to eventually get fixed, versus just sitting there spinning because I worked and I did this and things are going good, I had a job, they liked me, all that type of stuff. And then I was sitting down with one of my bosses, and coming up to this point, I was trying to get a team lead position, a manager position. That way I could teach the people I worked with on how to get stuff done and try to bring up the level of the team, the quality of the team, so that way, we could accomplish more by the skills. And at this time, I was doing some of the training, and they would rely on me for a lot of this type of training stuff, but I wasn't the lead or the manager. They just was kind of using me for that and stuff. And so, and I was told, oh yeah, we'll do that, And after about a year, my boss, I was sitting down with my boss, and he's like, well, it's your writing that's holding you back at this company. And you're not going to go anywhere higher than you are because of your writing and your skills. And that was it. That was kind of my hello moment. It's like, I'm putting in this time, I'm putting in all this effort, and my disability is holding me back at this company. And I went home, and I was sad, and I was hurt by that. I had put in lots of years, lots of time and effort in making the company better, and I was told, your disability is holding you back. In the words, not like that, but your writing's holding you back at this company. You're not going to go anywhere with that. And so I came home and talked to my wife, and I decided that, I don't necessarily need to work at a big corporate office. Along the side and stuff, I've been helping small businesses and people with their computers. If I could do it for the big companies, doing small companies is easy. And I've been setting them up, and I've been building them, and I troubleshoot them. If I don't know something, I just go out and I research it, or I take a class and I learn what I can do to help those small businesses out. And it's like, well, why don't I do this more? Why don't I spend more of this time and effort to help some of the small businesses out? I don't need to work for necessarily a big organization to validate my feelings. I could work for myself, and I could help out small businesses and small people. And so that's what I am starting to do. I started by trying computers a while ago, and I did it off and on. And so now I've started helping out small businesses from the start, because you got these people that said, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do. And I could tell them what to do, and I could see the picture of where they are and where they need to go. And so I decided I would start to do that to help them out. And it was hard, I like my job. I like all the stuff, there's that whole, the conflict, of what should I do versus this, And so I've decided I'll start to invest more in myself and growing myself and my business and stuff. And so that's what I've done at the achievement. I am really good at what I do. I'm really good at computers, and I've learned a lot, and I troubleshoot, and I can see the big picture to help out businesses that are coming online, or that are even established, and they get stuck with oh, this has been broken for months and no one can fix it, and you can come in and fix it here really fast. And not only that, it's also helped me know that I am good at what I do, and I don't need to have other people tell me, hey, your English is bad, you're not going anywhere in life, because I know that myself is good enough with who I am, and I can do the things I can. And so that's kind of how Trying Computers LLC started, versus taking over from Trying Computers DBA, something I kind of did off on the side. And so I am spinning it up and looking forward to helping small businesses out there to achieve their goals. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.